Good afternoon. A warm welcome to everyone present over here. My name is Ashish, and I'm the chairperson for Nursing Monji Friends of Library. And I would like to, first of all, thank Dr. Harish Shetty for being our guest of honor and our speaker for the day. Many thanks to you, sir, and all the lovely participants that have joined us on this fine afternoon. I would now like to invite Sanskriti Nair, who is a member of our events team, to introduce our honorable speaker.
A wonderful afternoon to all. I'm Sanskriti, and I welcome you to one of the most anticipated speaker sessions of Illusion 21. Day in and day out, we use our empathy and understanding to handle social interactions, sometimes without even realizing it. But what most of us truly fail to understand is that harnessing the power of emotional intelligence can help us become not only better people, but also better leaders. To help us gain an insight into this, we have with us today Dr. Hari Shetty, someone who has dedicated his life to helping people. He's a renowned psychiatrist with extensive experience in the field of disaster and mental health. He also has a postgraduate degree in psychological medicine to his name. If I start listing all the ways in which he has served our society, it would probably take up this whole session, but I would definitely like to mention a few. He has worked with the survivors of the Marathwada earthquake, Kandla cyclone, and in the riot-affected areas in Gujarat. He was also involved in evaluating psychosocial processes at Jabalpur and Gujarat after the earthquakes for a human rights group. From training peace activists in communally sensitive areas in India, to working in Afghanistan towards treatment of PTSD, to assisting seafarers after their release from the clutches of Somalian pirates, he has been a part of innumerable initiatives aimed at social welfare. Sir, we feel honored to have someone like you here with us today, someone who embodies perhaps the best parts of humanity. We are all very eager to learn from you how emotional intelligence is helpful in HR and leadership. So without further ado, let's begin with the session. A note to the audience, please mute yourself in order to maintain the decorum of the event, and in case of any queries, feel free to use the chat box. Your queries will be answered later. This opportunity is truly a privilege, so let's try our best to make the most out of it. Over to you, sir.
Mind in the middle, managing the Homo sapiens. Look at those two pictures. They are the world's greatest mental health professionals ever born on this Mother Earth. One is Patanjali and the second is Bhagwan Buddha. Patanjali gave us the gift of yoga. Gautam Buddha gave us the gift of mindfulness. Yeah, known as mindfulness abroad and in India too, but he gave us the gift of Vipassana. And that I think is something which I acknowledge every time I talk to any audience. We have a habit of undermining knowledge in our country. We have a pastime of passing adverse comments against our own indigenous knowledge. But yoga and mindfulness, yoga and vipassana, has really gone across the world, and more people abroad are practicing than Indians. Let me start with a story. I still remember this school principal saying that I do not know how I can handle this lady. I said, what happened? She does not mingle with others. Tell me more, I said. And she said, when we have a meeting and have coffee, we talk about the families, but she refuses to talk about the family. And she's not interested in that conversation at all. I asked her, how is she in her work? She said, she's Swayambhu. She's excellent and she works alone. She's not a team person. I took a pause and said, in a team, you have different types of people. Do not try to convert them. You may polish them across time, you may give them insights across time, you may help them to explore themselves, but do not try and convert them the way you want them to be. She's excellent, she's fine, leave them alone. That's the first myth of leadership everybody should understand. I still remember this HOD, then who became an HR professional. And she once told me a great performer in her company has been absent for the last 6 months with vague excuses. And they're thinking of allowing him to go. I said, why? She said, bottom lines, deadlines are more important than irresponsible behavior of a professional. I said, how do you say it is irresponsible? Have you inquired? Have you actually investigated? She said, we have sent him a lot of emails. My dear HR professionals, life does not go on emails alone. Life does not go on the chain of mails. Life does not go on the written word. Life goes on with human compassion and touch. Then I asked the HR professional, did you ask any of your team members to go and visit his home? She said, no, that's not the norm. I said, to hell with your norm. Good HR professionals don't cross the mile, don't cross the Lakshman Rekha, but great HR professionals do. And I said, why don't you go and have a look? When she went with one other professional, she found this man to be depressed and not taking any help. And she again came back and said, he's irresponsible. I said, no, your job is to also initiate people to seek help and empathize with those who are ill. My dear friends, remember, the first notion of leadership is don't try to convert people. So, Gautam Buddha said, Swabhav mein parivartan ho sakta hai. The second is keep your basket of reasons open. There could be a million reasons why people are not behaving the way they are, and that I think is very important. That man got himself treated and he was taken back. And then she said, we did a great favor by taking him back. I said, no. 1 out of 7 Indians are mentally ill. I'm not saying this. This is data by the Ministry of Health and Burden of Disease just before the onset of COVID. 20 crore Indians are mentally ill, and you also can fall mentally ill anytime. I told her. She was offended, but I didn't care. Be compassionate to the mental ill. Be compassionate to people who are in difficulties. Bottom lines, deadlines do not decide how HR can function. Having said this, I would like to say something more. Indians like likable people. अच्छा आदमी है, अच्छी है वो, मुझे वो बहुत भाती है. I like that person. Likability is not the only criteria and only quality for a leader. Americans are doing better than the rest because they can manage the orchestra. Indians are more prone to look at likability as one of the most important attributes in choosing a professional and nurturing a professional. That's why we are famous in Jugalbandi and not in orchestra. So learn to play the orchestra. Everybody is different. Generally, there are 3 types of people: innovators who do not like work which is routine, fence sitters who always say yes to the boss, and skeptics. All 3 are important. When the innovators increase, fence sitters join them. When the innovators increase, the skeptics become fence sitters. And the skeptics are equally important to keep a watch and see that you are guarded. V.S. Naipaul once said that Indians are only known to follow the shadow. Indians don't cast their own shadow. Times are changing. 70 years after independence, Indians no longer are satisfied with mediocrity. Indians are looking for excellence, and Indians are also casting their shadow and leading the world in different aspects of life. I don't want to enumerate them, but I would like to say that Indians have started casting the shadow by removing the yoke of psychological yoke of being ruled for 1,500 years, and they are opening the chest. Indians, the metaphor for an Indian is Pant, the cricketer, who doesn't care who's bowling. The metaphor for Indians is Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and even the players earlier like Dhoni and Sehwag. Your chest is open, you're raring to go, and that's the beauty of you guys, Ashish. I'm so happy to be with you. Having said this, let's look at what are the mental health issues and what are the emotional intelligence issues. I do not like this term emotional intelligence. Americans have this habit of building a structure across every symptom. Emotional intelligence, social intelligence, spiritual intelligence, they're all entwined. And that is very important. But I'm going to share 2 experiments which are very important. One is, if as a child, you're told by your mother that I have got ice cream inside the fridge, if you want it now, You can eat one, but if you can wait till Monday, you can eat two. This is a real experiment, not with an ice cream, but with something else. And this experiment in the 60s, they found that those kids who said, चल एक दे दे यार खत्म करके जाएंगे, कोई जरूरत नहीं है, रुकने का क्या जरूरत है? And those who waited by not looking at the ice cream, distracting themselves, talking about other things, and waited for the two, they were better leaders. And when they were followed across time, they had better family life, they had better jobs, they had stable mental health, and they were much better off than those who took one and ran away. So postponing your gratification, improving your frustration tolerance are one of the most important mental health tips for any professional. Apart from that, there was another experiment which I would like to share. A class of children were told to pair children based on their understanding who's close to the other. Okay, a class of children were told to pair one child with the other on a piece of paper based on who gets well with the other. And the person who could really pair correctly was a shy, introverted girl in the class. And the experimenter said she is fit to become the CEO. It's not the gregarious guy, the outgoing girl who says hi to everybody, who has a cheerful personality, only a good leader. But those who are very analytical and very observant and look at small details are also good leaders. That's one of the important characteristics you need to really look at. As Ashish helps me with the next slide, I would like to bring in some mental health issues so that you understand. Well, humans experience emotions. Anger is one of the most primary emotion. And anger is energy. Anger is basically a positive emotion. Aggression is a negative state. Irritability is anger in motion. Humiliation is not anger. Aggression is not anger. Anger is a sense of energy which you experience while you face a situation extrinsically or intrinsically without any provocation. And it's so important to understand that human beings will experience emotions like the ragas of classical music. There's anger, and if you're aware of the anger, you're happy. Yes. And the most important quality for emotional regulation for any leader is to acknowledge the anger, the emotion, identify the emotion, accept the emotion, experience the emotion, exhaust the emotion. There are many guys who come and tell me I never get angry in my life. They have a long medical bill for different ailments. And those who come and tell me that I'm like my father, he used to get very angry. Absolutely false. Father was born in a different era. Father was nurtured with different role models. You may not be like your father, you can change. Gautam Buddha said, Swabhav mein parivartan la sakte hain. And he's a scientist. Remember, both of them, Patanjali and Gautam Buddha, were scientists. So if you deny your anger, if you block your anger, it gets cooked. And how does it get cooked? Slowly you start getting resentment. That fellow, I sat down with him all night and he scored more than me. I don't like it at all. I feel like a lot of, when he comes in front of me, I feel very uncomfortable. My BP shoots up, my pulse is bad. I can't stand that guy. Sometimes you can't stand people without any reason. But the best thing to do is explore what's happening inside. Be aware. And be aware and watch yourself, watch your automatic thoughts, automatic feelings, and automatic sensations. And when you're able to watch those automatic feelings, automatic sensations, and automatic thoughts, they keep changing. Why should I get angry at him? I don't know him. So resentment is a dangerous poison because we do not handle that early. It gets converted into hate, hostility, hate, and revenge. So be careful, friends. Do not stigmatize anger at all. Anger is a normal emotion. Aggression is an abnormal state. Humiliation is an abnormal state. And as you grow in your roles of leadership in a meeting, if you really pick up somebody and smash the person left, right, and center, and you believe there are people, there was a doctor yesterday who told me, a young resident doctor, that a senior tore her papers And when asked why did she tear those papers, the hospital papers where the doctors write, if I tear it, then you learn to improve. Not at all. Humiliation does not help anybody. Insulting somebody in front of others is not a motivating method at all. And those who do it need a lot of mental health intervention because they enjoy humiliation, because they feel insecure about themselves. So remember one thing, as you grow up to be HR directors, HR managers, or wherever you are, in your college, in your school, remember one thing is you might get upset with the person, talk to the person alone, express your feelings. And if you have an administrative role, you can always say, I'm very angry at the way you're performing. I'm very upset at the way you're performing. And I'm sorry to say I might not be able to defend you for a long time. You can go for a PIP, but I would say that I'm really not happy the way you're performing. So you have an administrative role, you have a counseling role as an HR. So a counseling role would be you're very honest about expressing your feelings without humiliating. At the same time, you also put across an administrative rule in front of him that I may not be able to retain you if you continue. You can go for PIP, performance improvement program. So is there something I can do for you? Resentment is a seed for humiliation, hate, revenge, and rage. So be careful about your anger. And remember, anger also is love. Sometimes in your families, you get angry only at your own spouse or at your own mother. You don't get angry at your friend's mother. And your mother also gets angry at you because you are her child. You are her baby. And mother will not get angry at somebody else's son. And that is something you need to understand about anger. As we go to the second emotion, and Ashish shifts the slide, sadness. Understanding feelings and managing your emotions is one of the most important technology or a skill which we all need to learn across our life. Sadness is a positive emotion. Depression is a negative state. There are people who say, I'm happy all the time. To hell with that happiness. There's nothing like happiness all the time. Sadness is a normal emotion. It can come without reason. It can come without reason. It can come with a reason. Come and go. It comes and goes. Oh, I'm so sad that my friend, I've not met my friend for a very long time. I'm so sad to hear the death of my friend's father due to COVID. That is empathy. If you don't feel anything, it's not empathy. I still remember the doctor in hospital saying, Dr. Shetty, when somebody dies in the ICU, it's a matter for me. I don't express my feelings. And I had to move to Andarke. I said, you'll become like a robot. You will suffer from something known as dehumanization. So maybe at that point of time, you may not be able to feel the sadness, but at the end of the day, you need to be debriefed. You need to sit down and say, 3 patients died, I feel so sad. Another guy will say, 5 survived, doc. Remember that. But accepting sadness, acknowledging sadness, accepting it, seeing it as something which can happen to anybody, experiencing it, exhausting it is so important. Excessive sadness can be depression, but sadness is a normal emotion. Pity is not sadness. Some people convert sadness into pity and sympathy. I got an SMS from a friend who's supposed to be a shippy. He said, we are really running the world. If we don't work, there'll be no transport, there'll be no food. I said, shut up. Each one of us is running the world. The teacher there is also running the world. The student there is running the world. The doctor, the morgue attendant, the hearse driver, the clerk in the hospital, the TC in a railway station. Each one of us is running the world. So do not convert sadness into pity. मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों होता है? Why me? And be watchful there. And remember one thing, sadness is a normal emotion, depression is a negative state. And do not be ashamed of your tears at all. As a leader, I tell all leaders now, when I conduct sessions for senior leaders in corporates, I tell them, your vulnerability is your strength. And in the COVID era, if you sit down with all your teachers or all your vice presidents and say, how you feel about the COVID era? What are your own fears? That does not make you feel weak. Makes you feel strong and human, because when you're human, you're stronger. So I always tell teachers that a good teacher is better than any teacher. An experienced teacher is better than a good teacher, but a normal teacher is better than an experienced teacher. Be normal in your life across time as you grow as a HR professional, any professional, as you lead teams. Be honest about your sadness, but do not convert it into pity. जो बह गया वो पानी है, जो रह गया वो जहर है. Don't block your tears. जो बह गया वो पानी है, and what you block can get converted into poison, because mind and the body talk to each other all the time. The mind is always, the body is always very happy when the mind is transparent at some point of time, transparent at places where you can be. And when the mind and the body have conversations, the body asks the mind, do you have a safe place to cry? Do you have a place where you can be emotionally nude? You can be yourself? Do you have a place where you don't have to be in your visiting card? Because the visiting card, the name is constant, but the designation and the address can keep on changing. And those who live in their visiting cards lead very unhealthy lives. As I move to the next emotion, Ashish is helping me with my slides. Envy, so important, so important. I became the principal, but we all started our careers together. It's all politics. We all started our careers together, but she became the HR director. I'm still working under him or under her. I studied more, but he got better marks. I was in love with that girl, but she married somebody else. Very normal, extremely normal emotion. And be aware of this feeling. Very, very important to be aware of this feeling. And what is very important here is you will not get everything what you want. There'll be times when probably you need to go down the ladder, not up the ladder. Ladders don't define mental health. Ladders don't define mental health all the time. You being there healthily defines mental health. Your health and your acceptance of the situation and still trying to strive to be in a better place is mental health. So when you are very jealous, as when your close friend gets a double increment and his salary is twice as yours, and you're in the same WhatsApp group, what will you do? Will you isolate yourself? Will you avoid him or her? Will you talk behind his back? Blamers talk behind the backs. Go to the bars in the city of Bombay. You may go to Taj Lands Inn, or you may go to even an ordinary bar. All those guys who bitch about their bosses remain where they are. But all those guys who learn how this guy could escalate, could scale himself up and go ahead and do things much better, and is able to lead a global team, is able to lead a Pan-Asian team, is able to lead a team across India. Learn through your envy. And when you learn through the envy, you also grow. But ask yourself, are you blamer? Are you a blamer? Are you a bloomer? Bloomers survive. And for blooming, accept that somebody has learned a new skill and I need to learn the same from him or from somebody else. So the envy can actually be converted into isolation. Envy can be easily converted into blaming, and that's something we need to be very careful. As Ashish moves to the next slide, and I'm waiting for him. Well. So you experience various emotions. Joy is something you can't chase, but you can't avoid either. Suddenly somebody says, 10 years from now, remember you interviewed me, sir, and you did not choose me. But I'm grateful to you because you asked me those questions which I could not answer. And then I learned those answers. You really provoked my thinking and I got a job somewhere else. And you do not know that person. You do not remember his face. It happens to all of us in life. That is joy you cannot avoid. Joy you cannot chase. And joy is not continuous. The happiness workshop, you can't be happy 24/7. And there's nothing like happiness. Chase peace. Happiness and joy are the byproducts of peace. And that is so important for you to understand. Or for example, for teachers, so important. I mean, they always meet people in the market and suddenly a young man says, sir, you taught me 18 years ago. And then the teacher pretends, oh, yes. And he comes up with one sentence that touches his life. That is joy. Pleasure is, I heard Dr. Shetty, I got bored. I think I need a drink in the evening. I need to see a movie. My God, I need to take a dolo after this lecture. Yep, yuck. And that is pleasure. So joy is something which you cannot chase and which you cannot really avoid. But being excessively happy continuously could be a sign of bipolar disorder, where there's irrational joy, irrational happiness, irrational euphoria. irrational elation, ecstasy, and that could also be induced by drugs. And remember, dear friends, cannabis is not your friend. Weed and hash are not your friends. Obama is taking. Let Obama take. Weed and hash is detrimental to the human brain. Some of you might say he has been taking for 25 years, but I would say he would have done much better if he would not have taken weed at that point of time. God has gifted us with 1,200 grams of brain, and some have more neurons, probably better neurons, or probably certain parts which are very highly developed. But cannabis is never your friend. If you are to be a leader, you have to have good diet and staying away from substance as far as you can. As you move ahead, and I talk about the next emotion, Ashish is helping me. Fear, normal. Fears are normal. Anxiety is abnormal. Well, I'm really, I fear the COVID virus. I'm working in my hospital. I don't do work at home. But still, I'm scared. Fear is normal because it helps us to protect ourselves. It helps us to take precautions. I have had 2 masks. I clean my hands. I stay at a distance. I don't irrationally go to Maldives, Mahabaleshwar, and bring back COVID and infect my mother or my family. So fear is normal. Anxiety is abnormal. So if you have panic attacks, if you feel very anxious all the time, when you have to take a decision, if you feel very anxious when you have to present in front of your managing director, if you feel very anxious, if you have to actually present to your group head, what is very important at that point of time is that you need to treat yourself for panic attacks. Yoga, Vipassana, and any forms of meditation help, but at the same time, we need a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And you need to take help. I have seen many HR professionals seeking help, and those who seek help, those who are honest, are doing much better than those who say, "Nani, I'm mentally strong." Well, there's nothing like mental strength. Mind is not made of iron and steel, it's made of neurons, and it can really collapse at any point of time. And that, I think, is something we need to all consider. As Ashish helped me to change the slide again, I would like to say that this is the energy of life. This is the real energy of life. And this is something which you need to relish. During the worst times in my life, I recall the beautiful moments of my life, right from my childhood. I can still feel the fingers of my mother in my hand. She escorted me to school. My father. I can still see my mother with a glass of milk running after me, waiting for me to take it. I can still see my mother who actually ate last after us. So these are the moments which you should always cherish. These are the stirred emotions of life which helps us on a difficult day. And being able to experience love to its fullest is man's greatest quality. I tell all young men and young women, do you remember the day when your mom says, I made a special dish for you? Her mom says, as you go home, eat this bit, and you brush aside because you're on your phone all the time. I remember the auto rickshaw guy saying, कोई बात नहीं, ₹1 बाद में दो, जब मिलेंगे तब लेंगे, अगले जन्म में लेंगे. These are small doses of love. A great professional and the person who wants to build her empathy cupboard, or who wants to build her emotional wealth or his emotional wealth, should be alert to small doses of love, which is always there. There's nobody on this earth who's not been loved. And those guys who say, I've never been loved, they need to see me. They need to see a psychologist so that we can unravel those events which they have blocked for some reason or the other, because sadness was converted into pity and sympathy. Those who are able to experience the small doses of love and have the awareness of that, they are emotionally much better, much stronger, and more effective. Those who are doing Vipassana are effective medical directors, managing directors, doctors. Those who practice yoga across the world are much more effective because they're aware. And awareness improves. And when awareness improves, you're able to experience small doses of love. That boy who came and gave you his notes when you're sick. And remember, when that happens, do not expect the person to come back and help you. Life is like a Coco game, moving around in circles, not knowing who will touch you when. And in Coco, when you go and really give a quote to somebody, that fellow will not come round and give you, somebody else gives you a quote. So joy of giving. Experiencing the small dose of love is something very important. And in erotic love, remember, you might have a breakup, no issues at all. Your relationships can go haywire, but psychologists and mental health professionals are those who have a mental health garage and they can repair it if they like. And if at all it cannot be repaired, and if you have to say bye, remember, respect the person for what he or she was. When you respect the person, you're healing yourself. When you point guns at that person, you are destroying your own mental health, and that is important. So love is extremely important, and I have a million experiences of love in my life, and I get it back, and I live those moments in all six senses during difficult days and even during good days. I really recall those moments. I'm so lucky today. I live with my mother, 84-year-old old, and my wife and my children. And it's so beautiful to hear the small doses even from them. And when you share your small doses, your stirred emotions, others also recollect them and they share. And that builds bonding, and that helps you to have the width of bandwidth of emotions, and you're wealthy, your emotional wealth improves, and you are more effective than everybody else. As Ashish helps me with the next slide, there are two learned emotions which are very important: the shame, and the next one is guilt. Yeah, guilt. Well, guilt is normal. Excessive guilt may be seen in depression. Because of me, my family is suffering. Because of me, my family is suffering. I don't have to live. That's excessive guilt. And shame is also a learnt emotion. It's important to be ashamed when you do something wrong. But remember, kill shame and seek help when you're in trouble. Shame should not become a big monument where you have to hide, because all of us make mistakes in life. Each one of us is struggling with something very difficult. Each one of us has some skeletons in our cupboard. So do not try to really isolate yourself. Solitude is a good place to visit, but a bad place to stay. So important when you're in trouble, when you have a breakup, when you are in difficulty in your office or in your family. Kill shame and seek help. It extends from the fact that in your classroom, when you don't understand a concept, you put your hand and ask. Let anybody laugh at me. People who are bothered about others never grow. People who are bothered about their own growth, they grow. And those who put their hands up and ask questions, in spite of anybody laughing at them, they have better emotional bandwidth and they do much better. As we go to the next slide, Ashish is helping me with the next slide. Well, check your hate list. No, you cannot love everybody in life, okay? You cannot love everybody in life, but check your hate list. And I still remember this event when I was conducting a session with a group of vice presidents, and somebody said, I really hate my uncle, sir. I really hate him. He really destroyed our family. And the HR director said, please work on him, sir. Please work. I said, no. They already started working on it, because when you bring hate outside the freezer and put it on your table in room temperature, starts dissolving. So awareness that you hate somebody is extremely important for you to work rationally, so that you feel good. Resentment and hate is like a cup of poison. You drink it and expect somebody else to die. So that's something we need to really look at. Next slide, sir. Ashish. Yeah, and if you intensely hate your mother-in-law, you can't love your husband. If you intensely hate your mother-in-law, you can't love your wife. If you intensely hate your boss, you can't be functional. You lose efficiency. So it's important to work around and come up with some workable relationship. And remember, in life, respect is more important than love. Respect is not about awe. अमिताभ बच्चन है बहुत बड़ा एक्टर है. It's not about fear. दाऊद इब्राहिमी है कुछ भी कर सकता है. Neither of the two. It's about accepting the person exactly as he is. Most of us do not understand that we spend more hours in our workplace than at homes. And in life, you cannot choose your parents and you cannot choose your colleagues. They come because they're destined to come. And so you may not like his face, you may not like her sari, you may not like the way she talks, you may not like the way he eats, making some sound. But accepting the person exactly as he is respect, and that is more important than love. Ashish, as I slowly stop, next, Ashish. Ashish, next slide. Oh, so remember one thing in your life: love has birth, growth, and death, and sometimes it has rebirth. Next slide. So in life, sometimes you need to go to a retreat. No, you don't have to go anywhere to a retreat. Huh? Inside your house, audit your thoughts once in a while. Audit your feelings. Scan your feelings. When the fan goes around your head, if you have an AC and you sleep, automatically you'll get everything. आज मैंने सही क्या किया, आज मैंने यार ये सही नहीं किया, आज यार ये नहीं यार ये was not right. And this comes because of awareness can come if you're able to do certain activities. If you get lost in music, you can become aware. You get into a trance state in meditation, you can be aware. If you dance and be in a trance state, you can be aware. Trance state helps you to become aware. Yoga helps you to be aware. Vipassana helps you to be aware. Tasbih might help you to get aware. Or even rosary might help you to get aware. But any activity which helps us to really feel, ये सही है, ये गलत है यार, ये thoughts मेरे सामने हैं, मैंने बक दिया. Please read about emotional intelligence. I'll show you the book at the end of the class, but read about it. And also read about emotional hijacking. A lot of us lose friends because you suffer from emotional hijacking. I'll not spend time here to tell you what it is. Read about emotional hijacking. So it's important to be aware. It's important to scan your feelings. But sometimes life is full of stories. Problems are stories going wrong. Counseling is repair of the story. Sometimes you can't repair all your stories. Let it be. There's no need to resolve every conflict in your mind. Sometimes put it in the cupboard, close it, and sometimes after some time it automatically dissolves. There's no need to resolve. Sometimes it dissolves. It's important to audit feelings, thoughts, and repair your stories as much as you can and not try to repair everything about your life. Ashish, next slide. Well, in spite of all what you do, depression is common. It need not have a trigger. A depression can be treated. Depression can run in families, and depression needs to be destigmatized. So in your office, remember, there's a Disability Act 2017. There are 21 disabilities. Mental illness is one of them. When you really try to chuck your employee out, remember you need to have an inclusive policy with respect to mental health in your company. Mental health policy which is inclusive, and you need to help people recover and come back to work rather than exclude. And those who exclude others, forget that 1 out of 7 people are mentally ill, and you might find somebody in your own family who's excluded by somebody else. So very important for us to understand this. Next. Ashish, next. So all what I said is to help you move away from emotional dysregulation and experience sufficient equanimity. All great leaders have equanimity, samanta, which they practice all the time, and they're able to deal with crisis much better because their emotional regulation is good. I practice yoga and vipassana to help me balance and attain equanimity. And building emotional wealth and emotional equity is more important than building financial wealth in your own house. As we slowly stop next, so that I take a lot of questions. So sometimes when you play your difficult moments in slow motion, you see where was the thing which went wrong. It's like looking at your plate of food and you find that there's some pickle which is very spicy, and that might really hurt you. And when you see the food in slow motion, you're able to decide what to eat and what not to eat. So it's important sometimes to evaluate things in slow motion. Next. Ashish, next. Yeah, watch for intense feelings sometimes and go back and look at those feelings, where it is actually coming from. And that is so important to you. When you're in the meeting, you have been very intense in your family, you sometimes have exploded. The explosion may not be because of the event at that point of time, it may be coming from somewhere else. That's, as they say, behind a behavior is a story, and behind a story there are many stories. So, look at this intensity and find out what exactly happened. Next. Ashish, next. MK, Milind Kulkarni, you're talking. Please put yourself in mute. Next. So, my dear friends, I would like to remind each one of you, each one of us, inside us, each one is innocent. Honestly, each one of you, every soul on this earth, inside us, each one is innocent. And that is something we need to really tap. It's so important to touch your innocence. That can only happen if your awareness improves, if you're able to be very aware of what's happening inside. And for that, you need to experience trance state. It can happen singing, dancing, running, sports, exercise, yoga, vipassana, or anything. The last slide I would like to share is thank you. I put these two pictures because they inspire me. They inspire me. I mean, and one thing is, I'm sure that most of you are in the show do not know about Ambedkar because India history taught in schools was Macaulay's history. Please read the life history of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Please look at all the struggles he went through, and still he managed to maintain his poise and his equanimity. And that is something which inspires me to be a better human being, and a better human being is a better leader. Please read the history of Mahatma Gandhi. What a man! What a man! He picked up those symbols after traveling across the country twice, and knew that Indians will not fight their independence. They are not those who give their lives. And he brought this satyagraha as a beautiful concept, and he actually picked up the attire which could resonate with everybody else. And he was one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century. With this, I stop and I wait for your questions. And I purposely stop at 41 minutes because interaction is something which I've always loved to have. Thank you, Ashish and the team, to really invite me for this beautiful program. And I would love to hear from you and your team.
Thank you very much, sir.
And my dear friends, remember, one blanket advice is that exercise, meditation, diet, sleep, and kindness are, are the world's greatest mind builders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We now have the discussion open. So if any of our participants and guests do wish to interact with sir, ask any of the questions, you can kindly unmute yourselves or mention your doubts in the chat box.
Yeah, good afternoon, doctor. Yeah, this is Sheila Natarajan. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah. So you said that, we have an anger towards, suppose somebody who's responsible for the situation in the family, like, it's an anger towards a family member. How does one control that at some times? Because even though you don't think about it, but suppose a situation arises, you do tend to get angry and say something bad, or you feel that they are responsible for the situation you're in today. How does one handle that?
Thank you, Sheila, for asking that lovely question.
I'm so grateful to talk to you because I've met you so many times and I'm so happy. I'm sorry I missed out the first 10 minutes of your session, but it's nice to hear you. And I wish I could have met you in person, but it's been a very long time. I don't know that you would remember me, but I do remember meeting you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sheila, for your kind words. So what is very important is explore the anger. First is accept the anger. मुझे गुस्सा आती है.
Yeah, I accept that.
Accept
but
that.
Too much. Yeah.
One sec. Accept the anger. And calm yourself down by sharing or by looking at the entire issue to principles of by reading the Bible or yoga, vipassana. Once you calm down, once your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system remains balanced and you are able to think about the event and the person dispassionately. And if you could do something about it, you can do something about it. If you cannot do something about it, you leave it alone. But if it's something which is very niggling and it's something which is happening across time, because you have to live with that person, then the best thing to do is to not to allow the anger to be converted into chronic hate and resentment. And that's the time when you say, I cannot handle it alone. I need to really speak to somebody and get a rational answer. So that also sometimes after you calm down, you might see the entire event in a different perspective. You might see the entire event in a different way, and you might resolve that anger at some point of time. Sometimes you might say, I'm doing so much for the family. Emotional intelligence का book है उधर. I'm doing so much for the family, and they don't respond. Well. That's a very common thing. Guys do so much for my department, but they really don't understand. It's perfectly right. Swaha. I love, if you ask me why am I here, I love talking to the youth. I come here so that my mental health is better. I am not bothered whether Ashish will be in touch with me in the future, etc. to to learn. I feel so nice to learn. I feel so nice. So you need to have different ways of handling it. But if it's a chronic niggling problem, and if you're not able to handle anger before the anger gets converted into hostility, you should meet a specialist. Otherwise things really can be large number of things can be managed. Sometimes isolation. If anger is also abuse because of abuse, because of abuse in the department or in a workplace, either you address your human rights in a workspace, or you try and avoid that person as much as I can. I cannot really relate to this person anymore. I would work in that workplace to my best of my ability, but I would not be engaging with that person beyond a point. So there are different ways, but when things go out of turn, जिसका कोई नहीं होता है उसका साइकोलॉजिस्ट होता है, जिसका कोई नहीं होता है उसका साइकेट्रिस्ट होता है, एस्ट्रोलॉजर नहीं होता है. Thank you, Sheila.
Because people say that accept the problem, that it's going to be like, I believe I don't want to accept it. There should be a solution for it. So they say, it's the ego which comes. You have to accept things are like that.
Sometimes you may not find a solution. You might find a middle path. Say for example, I'll tell you what. I have this chronic habit of not taking my towel into the bathroom. It's 25 years. So we have come to a conclusion that's 50% I take, 50% I don't take. Sometimes accepting some part of the person as he or she is good, but if there's a human right violation, you need to have a proper redressal. That is very, very important. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, so much. Yeah, I definitely want to see you someday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing. Now we still have some time for other doubts and other questions. So I would request the participants and guests to make the most of this session. All right, we have Levinda Alfonso. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, let Levinda ma'am get on, then I.
Yes. Yes.
Hello. Hello, I'm Levinda Alfonso. Yes. Thank you, sir. That session was wonderful. I have a question. How can one handle a person who misunderstands you, no matter how good you have been to that person? So no matter how hard you try, however, the person has sort of decided that no matter what you do, the person will not cooperate and will not think that you have any, you'll have any good feelings towards a person. What should one do in such a case?
There are three issues here. One, if it's a loved one in the family, then the approach has to be different. If it's a professional in your department or in your workplace, different. There are three issues. One is some people, I'm not talking about, some people feel the desire to love everybody and to be loved, और वो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि सब मेरे बारे में अच्छा बोले, मैं भी सबके बारे में अच्छा बोलूं. And if you do so much and that person is like a stone, ask yourself, is it worth it? Some people, not you, some people want to build, मेरा नाम अच्छा है, मैं सबसे अच्छी बहू हूँ, सबसे अच्छा, सब मेरे प्रिंसिपल मुझे बहुत चाहते हैं. काय को reputation is the fantasy. And if everybody is praising you everywhere, there's something wrong with you. So sometimes we need to move away from that role of serving somebody all his life, all her life. I still remember, I'm not talking about you, ma'am. A lot of women who believe that they need to do everything for the father-in-law, mother-in-law, father, mother. And what happens is, I tell them, भाई त्याग के घोड़े से उतर जाओ, अपनी जिंदगी की मोमबत्ती दोनों बाजू से मत जलाओ. Take care of yourself first, and take care of others. But you feel guilty. नहीं यार, मेरी माँ ने तो सबको अच्छा ख्याल रखा था, मैं ऐसे क्यों करूँ? The day when women believe that they need to eat their food first before their husband, they need to go for a film in spite of the fact that somebody is ill in the house. You need to understand that they can never satisfy somebody all the time. And if you expect all the love from one person, you'll be disappointed all your life. I met a woman yesterday who said her husband is not paying attention. I said, do one thing. Wear excellent clothes with a nice lipstick and go out at 5 o'clock in the evening and come back at 6. Just have a stroll and come back. And when he comes and she asks you, where did you go? He said, none of your business. It's none of your business. You don't have time to pay attention to me. I have my own life. And within a week, the man turned around and came to me. So the point is, don't do so much for the world. Do something for yourself and then be rational on how much you want to do for others. Take care of yourself before you take care of others. And still you feel very sad and depressed. Remember, जैसे हम वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर में जाते हैं, वैसे ही जिसका कोई नहीं होता है उसका साइकोलॉजिस्ट होता है, जिसका कोई नहीं होता है उसका साइकियाट्रिस्ट होता है. Thank you for that beautiful question, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Can I ask? Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Myself, Kuldeep Kaur. So, thank you for a wonderful workshop. It was overwhelming to get connected to each and every incident that you were talking about. It felt like it's me you're talking about. But, sir, I'd like you to throw some light on anxiety and worry. I have a tendency thinking about ये होगा तो ये क्या हो जाएगा, ऐसा होगा तो क्या होगा, like unnecessary worries going on in my mind. Can you help me out?
Absolutely, ma'am. Sometimes unnecessary worry, which starts at a point of time, can be because of low hemoglobin, can be because of absent B12, absent D3. It can be because of issues with your hormones. That's number one. Number two, if it's a habit, चिंता करने की आदत, आगे क्या होगा, ऐसा हुआ तो वैसा होगा, वैसा हुआ तो it's a constant rumination, and that worry comes against your wish, and you can't really stop it. So that is the second, and the second type, but very important, is, madam, first start living one day at a time.
Yes, sir.
सुबह उठो, बोलो आज मुझे अच्छा क्या करना है. पाववडा खाना आहे, मस्त पैकी हातात पाववडा घ्या आणि असं चावत चावत आनंदी घ्या आणि मजा. So when you start mindfulness of really enjoying a small thing beautifully, you'll find that future is not really worrying. That's one. Second is actually talking to your children and listening to them with complete attention. When you are in the moment, a lot of worry gets killed. Number three is, when you think, what is it that I will do for myself today? What is it that I enjoy? You'll find that your worry goes down. But the worry still remains. And if the irrational worries, COVID होएगा, अपने में से कोई मरेगा, अब मरेगा तो अपना फ्लैट का EMI कौन भरेगा, फ्लैट का EMI नहीं भरे तो अपना की जिंदगी में क्या होगा? A lot of irrational thoughts. Sometimes make a habit of putting down those irrational thoughts on a piece of paper. Watch it. When you watch it, you feel that this is not true at all. Most of them are irrational. Reflect it with somebody whom you love, somebody who is non-judgmental, completely non-judgmental. And when you have a safe place, like me, my friend Milind Kulkarni is there in the show. He's an engineer of repute, structural engineer of repute, who has led many teams. We have a group known as, we have a group where you can be completely nude. And when you share our worries in that completely nude group, worries go away. In spite of that, if it remains, there is something known as cognitive behavior therapy. And that is something which is really very important, where your irrational thoughts, you can really look at where does it come from, what are the beliefs, and then you can crack. Lastly, ma'am, sometimes subsyndromal depression, mild depression might only come with these worry thoughts, and that can help you. Treatment helps. And lastly, lamba pranayam karne ka, sympathetic parasympathetic को balance करने का, gratitude, भगवान तू मेरे को जिंदा रखा यार 2021 में, खुश हूँ, सब कुछ निकल जाता है. And playing with little children, listening eating mindfully are things by which you can break your worries. If not, you need to do CBT. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And one mantra would be talking more often with you would also solve. I believe that. Thank you so much.
That might increase my worries.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Always love your workshops. Thank you, sir.
Yes, 1 million Kulkarni has put his hand up. I can see somebody's hand up. Yeah.
Mr. Milind Kulkarni. Sir, you're on mute.
You are on mute, sir.
Milind, sir, you're on mute.
I can see Father Swami. Is that Father Swami on the screen? Is the school principal of...
Yeah, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon.
Yes, Father Swami.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Wonderful sharing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
I myself gone through severe anxiety, and Dr. Harish Shetty is my school friend and my doctor also. And as he said, we speak every Wednesday and Sunday and bear our heart out. And literally, he is the man who pulls me out of problems. Literally every week he does that, and he has been my pillar of strength in this period, which I have never experienced such anxiety in my life.
Let me allow me to admit that I'm also anxious. I'm not God. As of now, my son is positive with COVID and he's quarantined at home. So I also share all this in this group where we are nude, completely nude, emotionally nude. So as much as Milind says that he gets help from me, I get help from each one of my school friends. So there is no great doctor. A doctor is also as anxious as anybody else. So it's always a two-way process. When I help Milind, he gets healed. When Milind helps me, I get healed. And that's how it is. Father Swami, you want to say something?
Well, I agree with you that one needs to be aware of all the time what is happening in oneself, and one should be honest to accept the feeling that one is going through and not to put on unnecessary masks. No? Yeah. So mask is important today.
Now let's say about the psychological mask, not. So, for all the viewers here, Father Swami is a very child-friendly principal. He was the principal of Holy Family High School at Andheri, and now he's the principal of St. Mary's ICSC in town. And he's also part of the Archdiocese, and he leads the schools of the city. Tremendous regard for him and love, and we have learned from each other all the time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have a question on the chat box.
Yes.
I can identify the user because it's a number.
No problem.
They say, good afternoon, sir. I want to know that when you are habituated to saying yes all the time, how to know when is the right time to say no and make it a habit of rejecting sometimes and be okay with rejecting?
Sometimes when the boss is very angry, you say yes. Sir, tumne sahi bola. And when you're on a quieter moment, tell your boss, I want to have a 5-minute chat with you, ma'am or sir, and then go back and say, actually, I do not agree with this part of you. And remember one thing, if you really don't agree, use feeling sentences. Don't say, I think your point is very bad, sir. Your point will actually destroy the project. No, sir, I feel very strongly about this, and I feel very upset about the fact that, sir, this point may not really help the project, and this is what is my alternative, and walk off. Because when you share feelings, there is bonding. When you share thoughts, there is intellectual dry conversations, which are also very important. But when you share feelings, there is bonding, and that's how you really have inclusive communication. What is inclusive communication? I agreed with what you said in the earlier part of the conversation, but the second and the third part, which was there, is something which I do not agree, ma'am, and I feel upset, I feel angry, I feel happy, and when you add themes along with feelings, you tend to project that I am with you, but I don't agree with you, and that inclusive communication is an art which gets developed slowly as you grow older. But sometimes at the age of 20, you want to really be a rebel and know nothing, this is not right. But great leaders have equanimity and they start very young and they rise in the ladder because of their ability to have samanta and equanimity, which is very, very important. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, sir. I hope the guest's answer is found there. Now we have Dr. Vaidehi. Ma'am, could you please ask your question?
Dr. Vaidya is also a head of, of an institution, by the way.
Thank you. We're very grateful to have you here, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Hello, ma'am.
Dr. Shetty, sir, it's your posting on WhatsApp really helped me a lot in getting additional knowledge. Whenever I look at you, I'm always reminded of Devanand's film and the line, "My jindagi ka saath nibhata chala gaya."
Without the cigarette, without the cigarette, without the cigarette.
Yeah. So, sir, I just means lot of addition to whatever earlier also I have heard many times, but today I have a different type of question.
Yes,
Principals often have to manage the whims and desires and the different type of moods of management and all that. The earlier type of relations these days may be even difficult and all that. So under such circumstances, when unnecessarily there are certain types of misunderstandings and all that, that creates lot of mental tension and pressures on principals. And in the changing situation of COVID, with teachers not able to cope up much with the technology, not children able to learn a lot, with exam results almost 100%, parents are having hundreds of questions. Suddenly मेरे बच्चे को इतना marks कैसे मिल गया madam? Proctoring not happening. Such a confusing situation, almost like a crisis. How do the principals cope up with this type of situation? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
Well, there's a full session on Friday by the Times of India NI group on the same, but I will address this here since you asked me. Ma'am, it's a tough situation. Let me say it's a very tough situation. But there are 5 things which I find has worked. Number one is not to play God at all. माझं पण एवढंच फाटलंय जेवढं तुमचं पण फाटलंय. And when you say that, when there's a humanistic interaction, you'll find that there's a two-way communication. Stress goes. That's number one. Number two is ask your teachers not to burden themselves and the children, and see that a lot of assignments are not given. There are many schools which are giving a lot of assignments because they believe that they should learn. अरे भाई 1 साल थोड़ा नहीं सीखा तो क्या होने वाला है जी? क्या होने वाला है? थोड़ा अलजेब्रा कम सीखा, थोड़ा ज्योमेट्री कम सीखा, थोड़ा ज्योग्राफी कम सीखा तो क्या होने वाला है बॉस? So when there is stress, teachers become obsessive. When they become obsessive, they become angry, upset. So if you are able to do something extra for teachers to help their mental health, ma'am, ma, I shapat, if you can have dance on the screen, the teachers are dancing at home and they're putting it on screen, and if they have fun, 50% fun, 50% padai. बहुत ज्यादा वो सिलेबस क्या है, वो इतना चैप्टर सीखना ही चाहिए. अरे सीख जाएंगे अगले साल यार, जब कोविड जाने दो ना यार. Let all of us have a pause button, do a lot of enjoyment on the screen, and उसके साथ पढ़ाई. That's number 2. And number 3 is, ma'am, a lot of teachers have got COVID. A lot of teachers' families are in trouble. They have lost their family members, and there you need special attention to them. And it's so important, that attention, and that really helps to a great deal. Sometimes, ma'am, you'll have to personally talk to a few teachers because they're in trouble. As far as kids are concerned, 15 दिन में एक फोन जाना ही चाहिए बच्चों को. अब पढ़ाई का नहीं. कैसे हो यार आप कैसे हो, क्या चल रहा है बेटा? पक गया मैम, मैं पक गया घर पे बैठ के, नीचे जाके थोड़ा वॉक करके आया यार. ऐसे 50% fun, 50% पढ़ाई, and another 50% कैसे हो तुम. And so many of our students are not at home. They are in UP, they are here, they are there, they are not sure of coming back to school. And please call all those kids who are not attending the classes. Attendance छोड़ दो, वीडियो ऑन कर लो, चिंता नहीं. 24 घंटा बंदूक मत रखो, आराम करो यार, जितना हो सके पढ़ाओ. सके गैप जब होगा, पढ़ाई का गैप बहुत बड़ा है हिंदुस्तान में. Lot of children have no phones, and we promise all the children that when things get round, we will cover the gap, and that's important. And Vaidehi ma'am, I know you are one of the finest principals like Father Swami, and you should tell us what you are doing for yourself.
Yes. Sir, I have been creating certain counseling sort of videos for my students.
Fantastic.
I keep on meeting them regularly.
Fantastic.
Yesterday, I wrote one Marathi poem, and that was suddenly within 5 minutes it happened. अशा वेळी तू बाहेर जाऊ नकोस आणि कोविडच्या हाती तू लागू नकोस. So what they are supposed to do for themselves, that is what I wrote. And now I'm going to speak to them in view of the examinations which are starting, which they should take very lightly, talking to them. So earlier also I had prepared videos so that I keep on meeting my children, and I feel that they also feel very happy seeing principal.
Absolutely, ma'am. Send all your videos, ma'am. I'll circulate it everywhere across.
Yes, sir.
Please send across.
Sure.
Thank you,
yes,
ma'am.
sir. Thank you very much. It is always a very pleasant meeting you either in person or on in programs like this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We have a chat box by Dr. Mukta. How does one control anger when someone is blamed for something not done by him or her?
Let's. Somebody also said earlier, controlling. Never control your emotions. Feel them first. तुम्हारे ऊपर आरोप है. Somebody has said you have done this wrong, and at that point of time सटक जाता है, emotionally hijacking हो जाता है. So withdraw from that event because you can't argue there. Come back, sit down, lamba सांस लो. When anger goes down, facts come into place, and then you find rational ways of putting across your facts to the person concerned, either orally or through a written word or through something else. So what is important is when you are emotionally hijacked, satakli, atta maji, satakli, that term amygdaloid works. The amygdaloid is a part of the brain which is to work when at the time of a stone age, when we were protecting ourselves from the animals around with our bows and arrows. But now we have settled down, we have done farming, there's industrial revolution, and as compared to the chimpanzee's brain, we have prefrontal cortex, which gives us vivek buddhi, ability to discriminate and act with a lot of poise. So come back, don't respond at that point of time. Sit down, take deep breaths, watch all the bad words you get in Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati, and English. English bad words are sophisticated. You are not punished for that. Hindi bad words, you're punished. And as the entire ripple in the river of the brain settles down, look at the facts and find out how you can really go and put your facts appropriately at the appropriate time. And then you'll feel whether they accept it or not. I have done my job, I have done my duty, and I rest myself absolutely in peace on my bed, and I'm not affected by it. But if you feel very affected, please share the grief with your friends, with your loved ones, and that will be beautiful. If you still feel offended and you feel that you have been wronged, if you have a system of redressing your rights so that you can correct the perception, please go ahead and do it. Seeking justice is also a mental health intervention.
Thank you, sir. Nice presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. और रबिया जी क्या कर रहे हो? Now, Rabia is also a school principal.
Good afternoon, sir. Nice seeing you and hearing you after a long time. I teach these days, sir, in Pune. Hello.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And you are absolutely right. A lot of stress is going on. And so I make the student do small PPTs, on immunity booster, food and all. So they themselves, they learn and they share in the class. And I teach them, I joke, we have Playway now, as a bridge course in our school. So that, where if they are suffering or they're stressed out, because of lack of physical activity, sir, they can't go out and all. The physical school is missing. The virtual thing can't take the place of, like the touch. So I get all the opportunity, sir, to teach them that how important human beings are. We have everything around us, but we can't meet people, and that is only missing. And that is only the fact, humanity and cooperation and collaboration, sir. So that's the reason. I'm stressed out for my children, my students, especially. Yes, sir.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. So before
Yeah.
you, I would just like to say something. Due to shortage of
Yeah.
time,
Please,
we just
Ashish.
have time
Please,
for the last question. So please go ahead. We just have time for one last question.
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Ashish. Sir, thank you so much, Dr. Hari Shetty, to listen you. It is always a very pleasure and lot many learning from your sessions, sir. I am a pharma guy, a middleman manager, sir. Sir, just wanted to share one incident which took place with my colleague, sir. He's been working with a new MNC, which is not known much to the pharma place. He did all his best, focused all services about his companies, and he was very much successful. And the time when he expected of, sir, to get a promotion and appreciation, ultimately the big boss demoted him and give him a transfer. So that was the incident which has recently happened because of this pandemic situation. The person was very vibrant, highly enthusiastic. All of a sudden, he went very silent, not talking too much. And he was very vocationally used to take alcohols and non-veg. He had stopped all that things. Secondly, he tried to reach to the decision maker why this had happened to him, but somehow nobody has speak. The decision maker manager has not responded to his phone call, and then he felt that it is something very intentionally has been done. Then he spoke to HR person, but that also didn't materialize much and helped it out with the things. So he's very calm, quiet, sir, and just need your sir insight how to deal and to counsel with this. My own old friend of working, though he's working with pharma, he shifted to the new location, but he's not ready to accept the things which had happened to him. So this is
Absolutely.
current.
I think the most important thing is sharing his grief with his
Yeah,
loved ones as it was. Second
right,
thing,
sir.
he'll start believing that I'm bad, and that's a very dangerous thought he might have. And he will also have a sense of being of injustice. But remember, tell him he should realize that if he has the skill, if he has
Yeah,
the commitment, a few clouds cannot stop the sun from shining.
yeah, very true, very true.
And
That's
that is something which you need to let him go. This is not the last job of his life. And
right.
if he continues working at that same speed, he might find something new. And if his belief is not shaken that he is not bad, many a times when we do our best, the results you get is completely off color. But remember, you cannot stop the sun from shining. A few clouds here and there will go away. That is something you need to understand. But he needs a lot of love and affection from his friends, and he needs a lot of understanding from his loved ones, and that is also very, very important. Thank you, sir, for the question.
So one thing also need to address, sir. So during your session, you speak about a leader who believe in humiliating someone and trying to give a lesson to the opponent in front opposite to him. I felt like that kind of treatment was being given to him. But the person who has done, I think his mental assessment has to be done as such.
I think if he's not appreciated, he should not try hard to seek the appreciation. Leave it alone for some time and have faith in yourself. And that's not his last job. He needs to
Absolutely.
throw stones at different jobs so that he can shift if he wants to. But if he holds the grief inside his heart for a long time, he will suffer. He'll not be able to perform, which is very important. So if he still believes he's good, he'll be able to do the same job much better in some other place where he would get appreciated in life. Every event, every beautiful activity may not receive an appreciation all the time, and sometimes you're appreciated even when you do ordinary things. So that's how life is all about.
Right, right. Great, sir. For your insights, sir. It is always pleasure hearing you. Thanks for touching all the emotions and, sir, explaining all the behavior points, sir. That really, help us to assess ourselves and to place where we are really standing.
So
So
grateful.
that is great, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for sharing and asking your doubts. And also thank you to Dr. Shetty for answering them. Dr. Shetty, please accept my humble namaskar from the behalf of the entire managing team for Narsee Monjee College's Illusion Festival, all our teachers, the various students present over here, the teachers, other principals, and the various dignitaries present over here. I would now like to call upon our member Sanskriti Nair to present a vote of thanks to Sir from the behalf of each and every participant and guest present in this meeting.
So before that, I would like to say one line, my dear friends. Please read this book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Second book I would advise you to read is Abraham Lincoln, the President of America. When he became the president, he took all his rivals in the cabinet. And the book is titled Team of Rivals. And that's a book you will cherish because he managed to get all his opponents and get the best out of them. That's the only example on the earth which I have seen in my lifetime. With this, congratulations for being great students. We would meet sometime as HR directors or any other field you are. And remember one thing in life, always look within. As Shah Rukh Khan said, खुद को खोने से पहले खुद से मिलना चाहता हूँ. And with that, I stop. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Over to Sanskrit.
I would like to extend our heartiest thanks to Sir for taking time out of his schedule to join us today and conduct this fruitful session. It was truly a privilege and an honor to be able to learn from you today, Sir. And all of us present here today have gained a lot from this session, I'm sure, and we are grateful to you, Sir, for providing us with this opportunity. I would also like to thank our title sponsor, Ednovate, our gifting partners, The Beambox and Crafting Memories, our social media partner, DU Assassins, learning partners, eLearn Markets, and official promotion partner, The Representators. I thank you all on behalf of the entire Illusion team and all the students gathered here today for making this session possible. Do join us in our other events. For more information and timely updates, please visit our Instagram page, NM Friends of Library. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. There is one final request to everybody present. Please switch on your cameras so we can take a group picture with sir. Thank you very much to everybody who's switching on their cameras. It is lovely to see everybody present over here. Okay, yes, wonderful. Lots of happy, smiling faces to be seen today. Thank you to everybody to spend this lovely afternoon with us, and thank you to Dr. Shetty once again. Everybody, please pick your favorite pose and give a big smile. Okay, and we have our picture. Thank you for joining, everybody. Have a safe weekend. Have a safe week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.